What exactly happens when a celebrity faces serious allegations but walks away from major charges? Today, we're witnessing it in real time with Diddy's $30 million lawsuit. Is this justice at work or celebrity privilege in action? A judge just dropped 5 explosive claims against the music mogul, including RICO charges that could have spelled serious trouble. But while Diddy's team celebrates, the trafficking allegations remain, and the internet is erupting with speculation. Before you believe the headlines declaring total victory, you need to understand exactly what was dismissed, what remains, and why this case is far from over. The courtroom just dropped a bombshell that's sending shockwaves through social media. 5 major claims against Diddy were tossed out by Judge Outkin, leaving fans and critics alike wondering what exactly happened behind those closed doors. The dismissals came down like hammer blows, one after another, but the devil is in the details. And those details tell a story that's far more complicated than Diddy's supporters want you to believe. Let's start with the headline-grabbing RICO charges that had Diddy's empire teetering on the edge. These serious allegations could have spelled disaster, but Judge Outkin swept them aside for a reason that's raising eyebrows across the legal community. The judge dismissed the claim because Rodney Jones couldn't establish a clear connection between the alleged racketeering activities and not getting paid for his work on Diddy's album. Here's where it gets interesting. The judge specifically noted that Jones failed to demonstrate damage to business or property as required by law. It's a technical loophole that wealthy defendants have exploited time and again, a pattern that's becoming all too familiar in high-profile cases. When you can afford the best legal minds money can buy, finding these legal technicalities becomes a lot easier. The breach of contract claim crumbled just as quickly. In New York, if an agreement can't be performed within 1 year, it needs to be in writing. No written agreement? No case. Simple as that. Jones came with accusations, but without the paperwork to back them up, and Diddy's legal team pounced on this vulnerability like sharks sensing blood in the water. Perhaps most disturbing is how the judge handled the emotional distress claims. Both negligent and intentional infliction of emotional distress allegations were dismissed as too general and conclusory. Translation: not specific enough, not detailed enough to meet the high bar set by law. It's a perfect example of how the burden of proof often weighs heavier on accusers than on the accused, especially when facing opponents with unlimited resources. This dismissal pattern reveals something troubling about our justice system. Wealthy defendants can hire legal dream teams that excel at finding technical escape hatches, legal requirements that might seem minor but can make or break a case. They don't need to disprove the allegations. They just need to show that the claims don't fit perfectly within the rigid legal framework. The judge didn't rule that these things didn't happen, only that they weren't presented in a way that satisfies specific legal requirements. It's a distinction that's getting lost in the celebration from Diddy's camp, who are spinning these dismissals as a major victory while conveniently downplaying the serious allegations that remain active. Make no mistake, Diddy isn't in the clear yet. While 5 claims have fallen, the trafficking allegations still stand tall and threatening. These remaining charges could potentially bring down his empire faster than the dismissed ones ever could. The trafficking claims were deemed substantial enough to proceed, which speaks volumes about their credibility in the eyes of the court. Those trafficking charges aren't the only skeletons rattling in Diddy's legal closet. Behind the confusing legal jargon and technical dismissals lies a troubling reality about how justice works for the rich and powerful. RICO laws, the same legal weapon that's taken down mob bosses and drug kingpins, somehow failed to stick to one of hip-hop's biggest moguls. This wasn't just bad luck for the prosecution. It exposes a pattern that's become all too familiar in celebrity cases. RICO stands for Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's the legal equivalent of a nuclear option, designed specifically to dismantle entire criminal enterprises rather than just punishing individual crimes. When prosecutors pull out RICO charges, they're essentially saying, "We're not just coming after you for one bad act, we're coming after your whole operation." These laws have historically been the downfall of organized crime families, drug cartels, and corrupt political machines. So what magical escape hatch did Diddy find? The answer lies in the fine print of Judge Outkin's 31-page ruling. While the judge acknowledged the seriousness of the allegations, he maintained that the legal framework simply didn't support Jones's claims. This reveals a frustrating technicality that wealthy defendants can exploit. Proving the direct connection between alleged criminal activities and specific financial harm is extraordinarily difficult. Celebrity RICO cases have a notorious history of falling apart for this exact reason. The burden of proof becomes a mountain that's nearly impossible to climb, especially when going up against defendants with unlimited resources and legal firepower. It's not about whether wrongdoing occurred. It's about whether the plaintiff can navigate a complex legal maze that requires specific types of evidence and damage. Judge Utkin's ruling emphasized that the RICO claims were dismissed on technical grounds rather than factual innocence. This distinction is crucial but often lost in the headlines. When a judge throws out RICO charges, they're not declaring the defendant innocent. They're simply saying the plaintiff didn't check all the required legal boxes to proceed with that specific type of claim. What makes this particularly frustrating is seeing the stark contrast with successful RICO cases. When these charges stick, it's typically because plaintiffs manage to establish crystal-clear connections between the criminal activities and specific damages. But that level of proof requires resources, documentation, and often insider cooperation, advantages that accusers rarely have when facing powerful celebrities. The dismissal creates a troubling picture of how justice can be manipulated. As Forbes reported, the dismissal of RICO claims does not imply innocence. Rather, it indicates that the specific legal requirements were not met, which raises concerns about the accessibility of justice for victims against powerful figures. This pattern suggests a legal playing field that's anything but level. Look at the judge's own words in his ruling. While dismissing the claims, he still acknowledged their gravity. This half measure creates a strange scenario where serious accusations can be technically dismissed while their substance remains unchallenged. It's like being told, your story sounds terrible, but you didn't tell it in the exact legal format we require. What's most concerning is that this isn't an isolated incident. Time and again, we've seen wealthy defendants exploit these same technicalities. The legal requirement of proving damage to business or property has become a convenient escape hatch for those who can afford to find and exploit such loopholes. Money bought Diddy 5 dismissed claims, but not his complete freedom. Despite the headlines celebrating his legal victory, the judge's decision to keep the trafficking allegations alive represents the most serious threat to Diddy's freedom yet, one that even his army of attorneys couldn't make disappear with legal technicalities. While Diddy's PR machine works overtime to spin the dismissals as a major win, the survival of the trafficking allegations under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act might actually be the most devastating blow yet. The TVPA isn't just another annoying lawsuit Diddy can brush off his shoulder. It specifically targets severe forms of trafficking, including sex trafficking, and allows victims to pursue civil claims against perpetrators. If Rodney Jones's allegations stick, Diddy won't just face financial damages. He could potentially face criminal charges that even his millions can't erase. The judge clearly saw something in Jones's allegations that met the legal threshold that the other claims couldn't reach. At the center of these allegations is Jones's explicit claim that Diddy forced him to engage in sex acts with sex workers, a specific and detailed accusation that apparently carried enough weight to survive the judge's legal purge. Unlike the dismissed claims that fell due to technical requirements, these trafficking allegations provided enough specific detail for the judge to allow them to proceed to trial. What's particularly noteworthy is that Diddy isn't alone in facing these serious accusations. His chief of staff, Christina Koram, also remains in the legal crosshairs, as do several other high-profile figures. The lawsuit names Diddy's son, Justin Combs, actor Cuba Gooding Jr., and even an unidentified woman described as rapper Young Miami's cousin. Several of Diddy's business entities, including Combs Global Enterprises and Love Records, also remain as defendants despite the partial dismissals. Diddy's legal team is working overtime to downplay the significance of what remains. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, has been quick to issue statements emphasizing the dismissals while glossing over the trafficking claims that survived. Combs vehemently denies the accusations, Agnifilo stated, adding that, "Many former employees are prepared to testify in his defense." This strategic pivot attempts to reframe the narrative as a victory, when in reality, the most damaging allegations remain very much alive. The contrast in messaging is striking. While headlines tout the 5 dismissed claims, they often bury the lead. Trafficking allegations under federal law are proceeding to trial. The legal strategy here is transparent. Celebrate loudly what's gone while whispering about what remains, even if what remains could potentially carry the heaviest consequences. Agnifilo has doubled down on Diddy's innocence, asserting that the music mogul has never forced anyone to engage in sexual acts against their will. But the judge's decision to allow the trafficking claims to proceed suggests there's enough substance to these allegations to warrant further examination in court. For all of Diddy's celebration, the trafficking claims represent a ticking time bomb that could explode his entire empire. Unlike the dismissed claims that often dealt with emotional damages or contractual disputes, the trafficking allegations touch on potential criminal conduct that could extend far beyond civil penalties. The TVPA provides avenues for significant damages and, if evidence is compelling enough, could potentially trigger criminal investigations that no amount of legal maneuvering can easily dismiss. The clock is ticking for Sean Diddy Combs as his legal team scrambles to prepare for the upcoming trial date, now set for May 2025. While headlines focus on what's been thrown out, the music mogul still faces the most damaging accusations, trafficking allegations that pass the judge's scrutiny. The court battle is far from over, and the consequences extend beyond Diddy's personal fate. The partial dismissals have sparked serious concerns among victims' rights advocates, who warn this could discourage future victims from coming forward. When powerful celebrities can get charges dropped on technicalities rather than factual innocence, it sends a chilling message to those contemplating similar lawsuits against the rich and famous. As jury selection approaches next May, the question hanging over Diddy's empire isn't whether he scored a partial victory, but whether public opinion will follow the judge's technical distinctions or the alarming allegations that remain. In the court of public perception, technical dismissals rarely translate to vindication, especially when trafficking claims continue to cast their shadow over a once untouchable music empire.